It's a
Right.
successful weekend in my books.
Are we live yet? What's going on here?
I do not know. Are we live?
Do we even have a producer behind the scenes? I think we're actually live. You want to let it rip? You want to just let it go now with a nice little cold, we'll call it a cold opening like Saturday Night Live. There we go. Boom.
There we go.
Cold
We're live.
opening, Saturday Night Live from Southern New Jersey. It is sportsbookraview.com. Welcome into the show today. Talking a little bit of NFL. It is already week. Kyle, it's week 12. Can you take me back to week 2 so we can have a full season here? I feel like it's sped up so much on us, but we have a lot of business to get to today on a Tuesday. Thursday, we got some Turkey Day action.
Really?
Sunday, a full slate of cards. So we are ready to let it rip and get after it. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. And every Tuesday, or at least, hey, every other Tuesday, Dave Mason from Betonline joins us. Before we get to Dave, Kyle, welcome in. Cold opening on the show. You got to do it live, right? You got to do it live.
I mean, that's what happens when it's live, and we're so busy, having fun behind the scenes, bagging on Donnie's Eagles a little bit, those first place Eagles. And it's always fun having Dave on. We get these awesome perspectives, and BetOnline really is, like probably my favorite book to play. I have a lot of fun at BetOnline when I can sneak in there, so it's a lot of fun. Week 12, it's insane. I mean, it's fantasy football playoffs. I mean, you got to get these wins this week. Get those waiver wire pickups. We can't use Taysom Hill in a tight end spot this week, which is a bummer. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this week, and I'm excited to have Dave on. Big week 12, and happy holidays to everyone as well.
No, we're going to have a good time today. 74,400 people have subscribed to the network here at sportsbookraview.com right here on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for doing that. If you haven't done so and hit that subscribe button yet, you see that little red number, that red button down there. Click that, flip it over to gray. You'll get that notification each and every time we go live on the shows. Dave Mason, Kyle's with us, me. You will get that delivered to your inbox. We can have some fun talking. And I got to say, Kyle, you know what the best part about that opening was? Look, we could live mics get people in a lot of trouble in the business. So looks like we are going to make it to at least our Friday show here, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, thank God I wasn't saying everything that we normally say off camera, so it's good. We weren't, reverting to Monday night. I was going to get the Wednesday email, which I never expect. I'm always waiting for it on Tuesday, you know what I mean? Yep. So, yeah, we behaved ourselves. We're not getting kicked out of the Reds announcing booth, so that is always good. And, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Week 12, Thanksgiving Day football. It's awesome. So we're good to go.
All good stuff. I'm excited here. And let's bring in Dave Mason from betonline.ag, one of the good friends of the program that we have, talking a little bit of NFL football. An interesting weekend this past week, but Dave is always up late and working hard because guess what, people? He's not just betting on football and setting lines on football. College basketball opens tomorrow. The presidential election hasn't been decided yet. Dave Mason, the hardest working man in the industry. Welcome in.
That's right.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And even if there was a hot mic, we got three great gentlemen on this call. We wouldn't be saying anything inappropriate. No problem.
That's right.
Keep it above board. That's what we're going to do. Right. Let's talk a little bit of NFL action here, Dave, from this past weekend. And we always like to start from a different perspective because we can say, hey, we did. I mean, Kyle went head-to-head with me Monday night, beat me. Went head-to-head on Sunday, beat me again. But the one thing we always like to look at is not if me and Kyle are beating each other. How did the books go over here? Because there were some big-time games, which we like to coin here on the show, Dave. Like everybody and they mama bet the Miami Dolphins, and that didn't work out so well.
Right. No, we had a really good weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday was really good, probably our best college football Saturday of the year, and Sunday was really, really strong as well. Broncos was massive, as you said, and the Texans outright over the Pats. Oh, yeah. That was huge. Raiders playing the Chiefs close was great. It would have been even better if they won outright because that would have killed a lot more teasers, but no complaints there. It was a really good weekend. Biggest winner for the players, Steelers, Browns a little no complaints from the book side this past weekend.
I don't want to think about any more Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles games. Oh, God, they drive me absolutely insane. Oh, good Lord. But speaking of the Steelers, we got a big game Thursday night, or it was shaping up to be a big game this Thanksgiving. Now we've got all these COVID issues going on. What are your thoughts? How you guys handling this? Do you expect big line movements here because of all this COVID things, no practice, et cetera? What are you guys looking at for that Thanksgiving night game, Pittsburgh and Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone 3 up to 4.5 and now down to 4. So there's definitely some movement anytime you move off of 3. That's pretty significant. The bettors are on the Steelers. Why not at this point? Only undefeated team. They're looking great. Ravens are struggling. Got the COVID issues, etc. Lamar Jackson is not the 2019 version of Lamar Jackson. He's not even in the running for NFL MVP again. So meanwhile, that Steelers defense is thumping people. So yeah, we're going to be Ravens fans Thursday night, and big time. I mean, that game's without a doubt. You look at the other two games. Oh, good Lord, Texans at Detroit, and the football team at Cowboys. Although that they're playing could be playing for first place in the NFC East. So maybe that game is pretty good, right? Yeah. But no, without a doubt, that night is going to take probably as much action as the other two combined.
Yeah. They're aiming for the top of the hill, Dave. As we know, the Philadelphia Eagles still sit atop that mountain with a shot to extend their lead versus Seattle Monday Night Football. But also on Thanksgiving, Dave, as we take a look, it's almost like tradition. And it's kind of funny because it's early in the day. The family might just be starting over. Maybe you're just like throwing the turkey in the oven. You always get a really horrendous Detroit football team. It seems like for the last 20 years that starts off the day, and we're okay with it. And then I joked earlier on the show last night with Kyle on our Monday Night Football show, Dave, that it's a natural ritual. Like you watch the Detroit game, you're just trying to feel it out. People are coming over. But Sunday, everybody outside of the state of Texas just roots for Dallas to lose or at least get injured so you can, have a little bit of interest. But the night game certainly is something that we're looking forward to. Over the years, Dave, that you've been in the business, obviously now with the advent of the night game, which is relatively new over the last, I'd say maybe 10, 15 years total, is the Dallas game usually the most bet game of the day, or does it really matter year to year on if there's a better matchup that you see more action on?
It's usually matchup driven, It's usually matchup driven. All three games will get great action. It's just one of the really good days of the year for football, man. It's a lot of players start kind of disappearing starting late October, all those kickoff guys that come back in late October, a lot of guys start disappearing, and early November, mid-November, it's kind of the numbers aren't as good as they were a month earlier. But Thanksgiving Day, a ton of players come back. It's a really good reactivation weekend. It's one of those weekends that we have on the calendar every year for reactivation campaigns and getting guys back on the site. So, it depends on the matchup. You just looking at this weekend's matchups. I mean, the night game already has almost as much action on it as the other two combined, and that's impressive in itself. But just making it that much more impressive is the late game, because a lot of players just if they have $100 in their account, they're going to put it on the early game, and then if they win, they'll start. It's like so it's without a doubt it's matchup driven this weekend, 100%.
Yep. And talk about, you open up the season, everybody's ready for opening day, go through a bankroll. It takes a while, Dave, to start signing up for new credit cards and going through the couches to save up that money for Thanksgiving Day. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that the game does go off, because usually it's not very many better games in the NFL, at least rivalry-wise, than the Ravens and the Steelers. But betonline.ag, one of the best things about them, and Dave does this wonderfully, is all the prop bet options that they have, whether it's sports or non-sports. Mm-hmm. But the ones that are now starting to really ramp up, which this is a rarity, having one team going all the way to see if they can be undefeated, and then the opposite side of the spectrum, a team that might not even win a game. Talking about the Jets and the Steelers, are we getting any action on that? Or it's coming down the stretch, only a few weeks to go. Is it a legitimate shot that we could have, Dave, an 0-for on one side and an undefeated on the other?
Yeah, and that's we need that prop. It sounds like we'll definitely put that prop. That's a great prop that we don't have, and there you go. We'll get one up. No, absolutely. I mean, the Jets one is getting more action because we've had it up longer because they suck so bad. It's pretty much Well, early on the season, there's always will a team go 0-16, and that just morphs into will a specific team go 0-16, whichever is the last team standing, I guess, if you want to call it that, last team buried in a ditch. So yeah, we have a ton of action on that, and we always need to know. We're always rooting for a damn win sometime late in the season. Odds are currently -250 on the no, plus 170 on the yes. And they got a tough schedule too, man. Dolphins, Raiders, at Seattle, at Rams, Cleveland. At New England, man. What are they going to win there? Cleveland, maybe? I don't I don't know. Dolphins.
New England, maybe.
At New England. I mean,
and they're not even trying to win theoretically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it even makes it crazier.
Yes, at plus money. I can't blame anybody for ticking for Denton.
That's crazy.
I
That's
mean, I'm
crazy
sure
to think about.
It is. I mean, that's a tough. That's a pretty tough schedule there. But
the idea of getting minus 250 to not win is just insane. That's absolutely insane to me. It really is. It's crazy to me. So getting off of obviously the dumpster fire that is the Jets, we have a massive game this week. The Chiefs and the Bucks, Brady, Mahomes, and it's kind of crazy. I look at it and it's like, man, anytime I'm getting the Chiefs less than a touchdown. Now, I sort of fell into this trap last week, which was excellent for Betonline, I'm assuming, because the Raiders went ahead and covered that. But now you're looking at the Chiefs -3. I know it's Tampa Bay. They didn't look all that great on Monday night, and the Chiefs certainly don't have a defense. Is this going to be the most action on certainly on Sunday? I would assume it's the most action. What do you think about this Kansas City Tampa Bay game?
Yeah, I mean that's the highlight of Sunday's schedule without a doubt. I mean, I'm sure the Sunday night game will end up doing more action, just because it's a primetime game. But from all the other games, without a doubt, it already has the most action by far on Sunday. Like I said, that the night game will probably catch it. No guarantees though, but it will probably catch it. Everybody's on the Chiefs. 87% of the early actions on the Chiefs. Yes, so a little more lopsided than I thought. But then a lot of that's based on how the Bucs did. Just a lot of bettors are just had that short term memory, and you've seen that a lot with the Buccaneers this year, man. That they look like Super Bowl champs one minute, and then the next weekend they come back down to earth, and so we've seen a lot of that. Just bettors on the bandwagon, off the bandwagon, on the bandwagon, off the bandwagon. So right. We're going to need them to keep losing, though, because our Super Bowl figure on them is still astronomical.
Now, talking about Super Bowl figures, what a great segue, Dave, as we get into this next game I want to talk about on Monday Night Football between a team that's going to be able to host a home game in the playoffs. You never know what can happen. The rest of the 7 teams ahead or 6 teams ahead of the Eagles could get COVID issues, could put them right into the Super Bowl. But I have to say this. Are bettors finally out on the Eagles? And is this one of those games where you look for, Dave, on a Monday night game, the avalanche of money coming on Seattle? Because I already see the Eagles beat writers laughing. Ha! Seattle only favored by 5 over the Eagles. I can see it now. That avalanche coming, Dave.
Oh, it's coming. The avalanche is coming. 86% of their early actions on the Seahawks -5. And, I think that Chiefs-Bucks action will even out a bit. We're definitely going to need the Bucks, but I think that it'll come way down from that 87%. But Monday night, it's not going to come down too much from that 86%. The Eagles are just, oh God. They're first place though, right? Chip in a chair, as we always say. Again, a dang playoffs. But yeah, man, we're gonna be huge Eagles fan. That makes it easy for me, man. Being from Philly, I get to root for them for the house and for my personal enjoyment, if you can call it enjoyment this year. But we'll see. Come on, Wentz, you're due, buddy.
Yeah, and then we finally get to blame Carson Wentz. Donnie refuses to blame Carson Wentz for all the troubles. And
I refuse.
He's got Dan Orlovsky on his side. I mean, a team tied for the second worst record in the conference in first place in the division. Absolutely insane. Dave, I'd be remiss if I didn't just ask you to remind people all the great stuff that you have going over at BetOnline. I love all the BetOnline is my favorite book to play, and I'll just tell the viewers that right now. It's absolutely my favorite book. Let everyone know what you guys have going on over there and some of the specials you have going on.
Yes, sir. Well, as we always talk about, we have the earliest opening odds in the industry, and college basketball is here, so that's always ripe for those early sharps coming in and picking apart those early openers. So college basketball is here. We're going to have the earliest opening odds. We have 2 Thanksgiving contest this weekend too. Nice. Both of them worth $10,000. So that's $20,000 in cash prizes up for Thanksgiving, and of course all the promo codes. 100% first time bonus code for bonus for crypto 100, 50% welcome bonus, 25% reload, 35% reload for crypto, etc. All the terms and conditions are on betonline.ag/promotions.
There it is. Dave Mason from betonline.ag helping us out on a busy week for him this week. Thank you once again for coming on. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And again, hopefully you guys aren't too terrible to us gamblers out here. Let us get a little piece on Thanksgiving so we can have some fun there, Dave.
Will do.
Take care, Dave. There you go, Kyle.
Brother.
Always fun. Always
Oh,
fun
I
to
love
talk to
having
Dave
Dave
each
on.
and every week coming in here. You could see it in his voice, right? The man is working around the clock to get things situated over there on so many things with college basketball starting up tomorrow. A lot of good stuff on Betonline. Dave is one of the few guys in the industry that loves to come on, and he can talk the talk with us. This is why we bring him on and have so much fun. So, guys, certainly check out betonline.ag for all your sports gambling needs, specifically offshore here. Kyle making it his book of choice. Well done.
Yes,
but we got a big week this week. And it hurts me, Kyle. I got to say, it hurts. When I see week 12, I'm enjoying because it's a full slate. It's Turkey Day. But then that little tear starts to build in the little corner of my eye here going, man, we're almost to week 17 and then to the playoffs and then off into the abyss. I got to enjoy it while I can.
Exactly. And am I the only one? I was watching the chat box and someone typed in Chase Claypool and COVID protocol, which I can't find that. So I've been frantically searching while trying to listen. Like, what the hell? That's a messed up thing to do, but at least it kept my brain sharp. But you're right, man. And is there anything more sad? Like you look forward to the playoffs, and you're like, oh my God, now it's that. It's that sort of weird feeling. You're like, oh man, when football season's over, it's a long 7 months, 6 months until we get back. And then, I guess I have to go find a different career. I'll be bagging groceries or something while the football season's over. Yeah, it's crazy how fast the NFL season goes. I cannot believe we're in week 12 already. Absolutely.
And the great part about it, which again is the sad part, is I love it so much that I'm so entrenched in it week to week to week and just continually look forward to it the next week. It's not like one of those, like if you don't like a certain, college basketball or NBA or Major League Baseball, you're just fighting the time just to get through it. That's not the case here with us at sportsbook.com. We really enjoy talking NFL, and we hopefully it pours through, and you guys coming into the chat box certainly to say hello to us each and every time we go live is awesome. But let's wrap up week 11 so far, Kyle. We do it each and every week on our Tuesday show here. Some winners and losers. We'll start with winners, and I'll go with you first here, Kyle. Give me some winners here that you took out of week 11 NFL action.
Ooh, well, how about the Rams? Let's just start there with the Rams. Terrific performance last night, staying on pace with the Seahawks. Seahawks have a bad defense. The Rams have a win over the Seahawks. I thought that was a terrific performance for the Rams. Terrific for Jared Goff against a good defense. Was really happy with what I saw there. And another win for me, how about the New Orleans Saints? This is the second year now where Drew Brees goes out with an injury. They bring in a backup quarterback. They have did what everyone didn't expect them to do and start Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston. A little bit of a slow start. Then they just came out. That defense is legit. Taysom Hill looked good. He was a competent quarterback, getting their number one wide receiver involved. I thought that was a big win for the Saints. Not only did they get the win with their backup quarterback, but then you watch your division rival, Tampa Bay, lose on Monday night. Big week for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, winners of the week, to take a look at a few there before we go back to the losers, which is usually a little bit more fun. Winner of the week for me, from an NFL perspective, Indianapolis Colts. You had a heavyweight fight between them and the Green Bay Packers, and I was staying all week long. I love the Colts. I love when they're in a dome. The game looked like it was really getting out of whack, where it looks like Green Bay was finally going to step up and beat somebody who can actually get into a phone booth and throw punches with you, and they melted down the stretch. Even though, as I like to say, Kyle, the NFL tried their very best to keep points off the board for the Indianapolis Colts late in the fourth quarter and make sure Aaron Rodgers had a chance to come back. It wasn't all that it's cracked up to be. 34-31 final. My winner of the week is the Colts and Frank Reich. One of the best performances that you will get for your betting perspective money is on the Colts. Every time you lay some money down on them, Kyle, they typically show up, answer the bell, and you get a competent football game out of them. And a lot of times that's all you can ask for. Losers of the week, Kyle. Give me some losers there from week 11.
Well, again, I'm going to say this again, NFL fans, the fact that we're going to have to watch an NFC East team in the postseason host a game is absolutely dreadful. And I know that hurts your heart, but the fact that we're looking at 3-win teams right now, all in it. Washington, Dallas, they're all in it. The New York Giants, think about that. With Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, they're in. But I think we go right back to that Rams-Buccaneers game. That was a bad loss for the Buccaneers. When you think you have a game at home, Monday Night Football, Brady, you get an inconsistent Jared Goff, and you lose that game. I thought that was a big, big loss for them. And when you sort of look across the NFC landscape, that's going to be a big loss for them. It could tiebreakers, et cetera. So I thought that was a really bad loss for them. And another team, the Baltimore Ravens. Look, they just consistently are underperforming. Now they're ravaged by COVID. Looked like they had that game wrapped up. I was about to I was waiting for the tweet saying, haha, I was right and Kyle was wrong. I took the Ravens, boom, boom, boom. And they just couldn't stop the run. And it kind of went that offense against a very vulnerable Tennessee defense with no pass rush whatsoever, unable to deliver. Then you have the Steelers winning. The Baltimore Ravens are in trouble. This game this week is really big for them, and now with all the adversity they're facing, I thought this was a bad week for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going back-to-back AFC teams as my losers of the week, and I do like the Ravens still have a good organization and a good football team, but the fact that they lost that game to the Titans, it wasn't that they lost it because the Titans are a decent football team, but when you're looking ahead to how your season is going to play out, you needed that victory, and you get up double digits in the second half at home, you have to close that out. And here's a case in point when we talk about 2020 is so different from the way you would have to adjust your normal, betting procedures because home field doesn't matter anymore. It's an absolute zero. You usually go into Baltimore and they blow your socks off because the crowd is there, they feed off it, and they're very physical. But when nobody is in the stands, you saw that comeback. How would you like it here, Kyle, when, the second half early where they get that touchdown pass to Andrews? The crowd would be rocking, full throat, defense is ready to bring it, but it's dead silent, and it allowed, obviously, the Titans to come back and win. And now you're looking at the Ravens, usually dominant at home, 2-3 on the season at home. My second loser of the week, those New England Patriots going on the road. Weren't we buying in? Ooh, Cam, yeah. Now, say, hey, Donnie, Cam, 26 of 40, 365 and a touchdown. Forget about that. You lost to the Texans. 360, you should get that as soon as you walk out on the field. Like, I'm a quarterback. Hello, I'm going to throw for automatically 350 against this Houston defense. You came up lame in a football game where some people, hey, they could make a run to that seventh playoff. We've counted out Bill Belichick before. Dead and buried. You lose to the Texans, it's a wrap on your season. They are a straight-up loss and a loser for me for this past weekend of Week 11. 2 points I want to hit on. So we'll bring up the segue, keep it the same before we get to a little bit of Lions talk here for Thanksgiving. The Patriots, back from the dead, or are they dead? To me, they are dead. They've always been dead, and they are not making the playoffs this year for the rest of the way. Your thoughts on the Patriots, where they tried to get you to buy into it. Hey, they just beat Baltimore at home. They beat the Jets the week before. They're going to handle Houston. Boop. End it.
I'm just so sick of betting. Every time I bet on the Patriots and, they laid that egg against Denver. They did it again against you. There's no reason. I know Deshaun Watson's a terrific quarterback, but you should absolutely not be losing to that team. You should be able to run up and down the field. Bad loss for the Patriots. And I guess really their only hope to maybe squeak into one of those playoff spots is if there's some canceled games and they add an 8th playoff team. But if you're a Patriots fan, do you really want to watch that team in the postseason? Cam Newton, inaccurate. Certainly can't bring a team back from behind. I think they showed his record like 3-14-1 when his team's down by a touchdown or more in the second half. Something insane like that, if I remember right. Don't 100% quote me on that, but it's somewhere around there. Sick of the New England Patriots. Done betting on the New England Patriots. And I think they're dead. They're dead to me for sure. You will not see another dollar of mine be placed on the New England Patriots.
And just real quick here, I didn't want to list this team as the loser of the week because it really would have been too easy. And I'm talking about a team that went out on Sunday, had 10 first downs versus a very below average defense, had 185 total yards in that game. To put that in perspective, as I always like to do, coming into this Sunday's games, the bottom of the barrel NFL offense, the New York Jets, who struggle before the Charger game, to even snap the football and go forward on a running play, average 266 yards a game. 185 for Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions and Matt Patricia. When is it going to end? Because now they're a dog, which we'll talk about in just a few moments here on Thanksgiving Day. This team has been, just seems like ever since I was growing up as a kid, you had the Barry Sanders years in the 90s. They were fun to watch, Wayne Fonts, and they were at least a competent football team. But they're just an afterthought. And I always rag on that division because you have some of the weirdest ownership positions there are. The Green Bay Packers are owned by the fans. The Chicago Bears are owned by some grandmom who just, hey, my daddy owned the team. I'm 90. I love my Bears. And then you have the Ford family that if you took an age average, the family age is 99 years old with Grandma Ford. So get ready on Thanksgiving when they talk about Grandma Ford religiously. This team has just been obsolete for just about its entire existence in the NFL. It's time to end it. Get some new ownership, get a new GM, get a new head football coach, move on from Matthew Stafford. I'm so tired of looking at the Lions. They're just obsolete in the NFL completely.
Yeah, and Matt Patricia is a terrible coach. When you watch that team play, some of the some of the play calls and just the way they do things, it's a head scratcher. Now, I do know this week, I will give them this. You had Matthew Stafford with the banged up thumb, so he wasn't able to really be effective. They didn't have Kenny Golladay. They didn't have DeAndre Swift. TJ Hawkinson is dealing with that toe issue. So now you're relying on guys, no Danny Amendola as well. So you're relying on guys like Marvin Hall and 850-year-old child-beating Adrian Peterson and
how about
our
two running backs? Yeah, how do we both do, by the way, on our running back choices?
Yeah, they didn't score, but I will say Kerryon Johnson did play 70% of the snaps, so that felt right, but they didn't do a damn thing. It was just an absolute joke. And you're playing against PJ Walker. My PJ Walker jersey is on its way. They came out there. When you're losing 20-0 to PJ Walker and Mike Davis, it's not like Carolina wasn't hurt as well. So all these excuses we're making for the Lions, you look at what Matt Rule's doing in Carolina, just a much better organization. I am with you. I am sick of the Detroit Lions. I think the last time I enjoyed watching them play, besides maybe a little Calvin Johnson, was back that 91 year you talk about when they played the Washington in the postseason, lost that game. The Washington went on to the Super Bowl, the Mark Rippon things. But you remember the Lions, too. This is the team that drafted wide receivers in the first round in the top 5, like 4 years in a row.
They had the Million-Man March. The Million-Man March was taking place in Detroit, Kyle.
Yeah, what was it? Roy Williams, Chester Rogers, Mike Williams after a year out from USC. They just kept doing it. Just an abysmal organization. Get the hell out of here, Detroit. Relegate them. We need a relegation pool like in soccer. Just knock them down.
No, you know what's interesting, too, about Detroit? Like, imagine the franchise, like the two pillars of your franchise, right? Or at least modern day. Megatron was like, you know what? This isn't even worth it. I'm making a ton. I don't even like playing here as a Detroit Lion. Then you zip it back 20 years ago, and Barry Sanders like, you know what? I'm going to break this all-time record. I'm still healthy. I'm out of here. Like, I don't give a damn about. Can you imagine that? Like, that's how poorly your franchise is run.
Yeah, he wanted out so bad they wouldn't let him out. So he said, see ya. Same with Calvin Johnson. Like, nah, no thanks. I'm out of here. I'm tired of playing with Eric Kramer at quarterback. No, thank you. I'm getting the hell out of here. It's just an absolute. And what's weird is I'm seeing some line movement here. I'm seeing it go from 3 to 2.5. Segueing into the first game. Who is feeling better about Detroit? What? Because DeAndre Swift practice, maybe play. I don't know, man. The Detroit Lions. Absolute dumpster fire. I think I'd rather be a Jets fan than a Lions fan, honestly.
Yeah, we'll get to those games in just a few moments. Pick Six contest, my first losing week in the Pick Six in a while here. So I dropped out of the top 200, and now I sit in 212th place here. Kind of disappointing week for me. Nothing really went all that right of what I thought, and buoyed by my 2-star play of the under in the Packers game, which was ridiculous. That buoyed my week, and I took a losing week in that, so hopefully bounce back. How'd you do this week in the Pick Six contest?
It was my worst week of the season. I went 2-4 this week, and my 2 times play was also the under in the Packers-Colts game. But I will say for the year, I'm still in 158th, 5 games over 500. So one good week. I mean, I'm only 4 games out from the top 10. So we're close. We're in 158th place, but a 2-4 week, my first losing week of the year. I'm more pissed about, like, my bets went really well. Cowboys, Jets, etc. I had a lot of the Titans. But for some reason, my pick six burned me. I lose sleep over that. I get really pissed off. I want to be in that top 10 so bad. Pick six is a lot of fun, but you got to pick sides there. It's tough, and I had a tough week this week, so hoping to bounce back this week.
Yep, over 100 people watching now, currently live in the chat box. Thank you guys for tuning in here and certainly supporting the channel. Have some fun. Now we're going to get our jetpacks on over the next 30 minutes and hit this card. And keep in mind also, when we talk about the Pick Six contest, you're not going to be able to win the whole thing if you haven't been in yet, but you can still join it and have some fun and get in on the weekly prizes. SBRpicks.com/NFL. All the links are behind that. If you missed anything that we do content-wise on the air, written content, it's all right there, designed to make you a better gambler in the NFL. And also a quick PSA note, usually we have our key show on Thursday where we sharpen those pencils and get you ready. Yeah. It is Thanksgiving. We won't be live, but guess what? We're getting back to a Football Friday, 4 p.m. NFL key show, setting you up for the weekend. We'll talk what happened on Thanksgiving, transfer it over to Sunday, have that extra day, Kyle, practice reports in. So we'll be on our P's and Q's. So make sure you join us on Friday, not Thursday this week, as we do our NFL key show. But let's get to some action here on Turkey Day. 12:30 p.m. first game each and every year. And you can't get mad, right, Kyle? Because it's football. It's always horrendous football to start the day, but you're still in the nice mood. You're not weighed down by 1,000 pounds of turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, cornbread, whatever you're eating, pumpkin pie. You're still in good spirits. Now, maybe by that second half of the Dallas game and the night game, maybe you're like, hey, man, I got to unbutton my pants on the couch. I got to relax. I fall asleep. Maybe I wake up at halftime of the game. But you're still in good spirits here. Houston and Detroit. And I look at these three lines here on Thanksgiving Day. And the first thing that pops up, which I know somebody's already saying in the chat box, how the hell can you take Detroit? And it's like 2.5 and 3 at most outlets here. Am I missing something? Like, what am I missing? There's going to be no fan. Usually, I'm all teed up and ready to go on the home teams. But obviously, with the COVID era, there's no fans, so it takes it right out of range. You saw last week Detroit was horrendous. They can't stand their head coach. Are they rising up with a great performance? When the hell was the last time Detroit had any performance, it feels like, on Thanksgiving, Kyle? I don't know. 2.5, 3? I can't even see it.
We had a sparkle last year. If you remember, David Blau started last year on Thanksgiving.
Blau,
if you remember,
with Mitch Trubisky last year too. Was that it?
Yeah, and so that was the Trubisky Blau game, and I thought Blau was okay. I think he threw for like 245 or 250. He wasn't as bad as Ben DiNucci. No. You know what I mean? Your poster boy Ben DiNucci, but it does look like Kenny Golladay is trending towards playing. That he's dealing with that hip issue. DeAndre Swift still in concussion protocol. Houston coming off, you would definitely say New England's defense isn't the same New England defense we've seen in years past, but they're certainly better than this Detroit defense. And then you look at, you got a healthy Deshaun Watson. Now he will be without a couple of weapons that, David Johnson obviously still out, but Kenny Stills may not play. Randall Cobb dealing with the toe issue is ruled out, but they have guys who've been playing in the slot for that team in years past, Kiki QT, DeAndre Carter, et cetera. So I like Houston. These are the two worst running defenses in the National Football League. If DeAndre Swift can somehow get out of protocol and play in this game, it certainly helps Detroit a lot. Matthew Stafford's thumb still looks like it's going to be giving him problems. It's hard right now to bet on Detroit. I don't trust either one of these teams, but I certainly trust Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller more than I trust banged up Matthew Stafford and maybe not 100% Kenny Golladay dealing with the hip injury. And Lord knows I wish Kenny Golladay was healthy. I have him in both my fantasy football leagues, and I'm getting really sick and tired of him not playing every damn week. He's channeling his inner Julio Jones. But right now you got to go Houston. Love the conditions in the dome. You look at that total, 51.5. How competent will that Detroit offense be if DeAndre Swift isn't there? Their most explosive running back. I'm not really interested in getting to that total. I'll probably stay away from it because totals have just been scary lately. If you're not doing a team total, these, we saw it with the Colts and the Packers last week. These are two bad defenses. The points should be there, but how good will Stafford look in that passing game, and how effective will Golladay be coming back, and will Amendola be back? So a lot of questions there, but right now I lean the Houston Texans.
Yeah, look at that. Just like the last 5 games for Detroit, 1-point squeaky win at Atlanta, who stinks. They play the Colts, you got blown out. You played Minnesota, you got blown out. You needed a 59-yarder, 60-yarder at the gun to beat the Washington Redskins with their one-legged quarterback. And then you go on the road and embarrass yourself and don't even score a point against Carolina, starting a kid out of the XFL who blew you right off the field. So it doesn't leave any happy comments. You're not rising. Like, Patricia's probably going to be done by the end of the year, but I think the more maddening thing for me is sitting here on Thanksgiving, we're going to show Grandma Ford up there. It's been 98 years since we had a good football team. I mean, come on, man. Enough showing these old ladies in the owner's box like they have any idea what's going on in the football field. Let's keep it moving here and then get to the NFC East battle. Still, the tide is rising in the NFC. The competitiveness at an all-time high, trying to get that spot from still the first place. The Eagles don't even need to win any games, and they still sit in first place. It's actually an amazing dynamic. 123-124. Washington coming to town versus Dallas. The one thing I look at this game, line set at 3, seems about right. 2.5 at FanDuel here at New Jersey. Over-under opens up at 47. That now sits at 46 across the board. When I take a look at this game, the reason why we both liked Dallas last week, and I had them on a team total, which hit very easily, was the fact that when you look at the defensive side of the football for Minnesota, it's like pillow fighting, right? Got 2 pretty good safeties, whack cornerbacks, a good linebacker, and absolutely nothing on the defensive line. So if you're trying to get a pass rush on Andy Dalton, which he can't move, that wasn't the week to do it, and you saw them put up over 30 points. But now you step into a little bit different dimension here. Washington's defense isn't great, but the one thing they do really can hurt the Cowboys. And I know, Kyle, you brought it up on the show on Sunday, or I think last night. They got whitewashed in the first game. It was a rainy day. The Cowboys were embarrassed. And, they talk about, exploding watermelons, getting them hyped. Andy Dalton's head exploded like a watermelon in that football game. It was knocked out. And then we saw the advent of the hero that is Ben DiNucci. But now looking at this football game going forward, short rest, good front seven, pressure on Andy Dalton, that changes things a little bit for me. And I think Washington can do their same dink and dunk down the field. I actually like the 3 points here with Washington. I'm not in love with Washington, but I think the defense will be competent enough to give Dallas some issues. I'm not ready to ride high on Dallas like they fixed everything here, coming off a bye, going into Minnesota. That's a nice win, which they gave, basically Minnesota all they can handle. But looking at it, I actually like Washington with the 3 points here early.
Oh, yeah, I actually like it quite a bit. And you're right. Dallas played a bad Minnesota defense, so the stars aligned for them. They had matchups galore across the board. When you look at this game, their best matchup is feeding the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. You have seen Washington be a little bit vulnerable against the run. But when you look at that secondary, it hasn't just been good. It's been very good. It's one of the top passing defenses in the NFL. It's allowing the second fewest fantasy points, by the way, to opposing wide receivers in the league and quarterbacks. They have been very, very good. And I think you're right. They can get after the passer. They're not great against the run, but they have corners outside, Jimmy Moreland, et cetera, Kendall Fuller. They can get after it. I like Washington quite a bit. And then when you look at their offense, look, Alex Smith, I know he's put up some yards, but he's not going to kill you deep all day long. But what does the Dallas Cowboys have? One of the worst, if not the worst, them and maybe Seattle, secondaries in the entire league. Anthony Brown is also going to miss this game, so they're going to be short another one of their bad corners who is apparently better than what's behind him. So, I mean, what are you getting out there? The conditions inside a Cowboy Stadium. I know Dallas, it's Thanksgiving. They're at home. Certainly an advantage there, but there's nothing on the defensive side of the ball for Dallas that scares you. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Terry McLaurin, all of them a little bit banged. I know Gibson and McLaurin a little bit banged up. But I just don't see what Dallas can do that much better than Washington, aside from Zeke Elliott running the football. A much, much, much better defense for Washington. They're going to put pressure on Dalton, and we've seen the Cowboys sort of crumble when other teams are more physical with them, kind of like the Packers. I like Washington this week, and I will certainly take the points. I cannot take the Cowboys as favorites anywhere. If they were underdogs, I might reconsider. But I'll take the 3 points, and I'll take Washington this week.
Yeah, look at Washington's schedule here. Look at the last 5 games, then tackle in this game on Thanksgiving here. Giants, Dallas, Giants, Detroit, Cincinnati, and the Dallas Cowboys. It's amazing that, and this is where you're trying to make up some headway to move on. But it does come down to, what am I going to get out of Alex Smith? Because if you really like to pull your nails out and have one of these games, they're a tough offense to watch because that football doesn't move downfield. You have some guys with some quicks on the outside, like Terry McLaurin, Sims. They can get deep. But when you watch Alex Smith play, you're just relying on that 5-yard pass and hoping they can get into field goal range and see what they can do. It's a tough living to make in the NFL when you're looking to win football games because what you used to have, and specifically Kyle being a 49ers fan, is, hey, you know what? He's going to check down, but if the pocket breaks down, he could run for 10 or 15 yards to keep your defense honest. Alex Smith doesn't run anymore, so maybe a little bit more susceptible to the pass rush that we've seen. And we see that over-under at 46. It feels like an under, but again, like last night in the football game, like, hey, you got 2 good defenses. It looks like you had a decent start, and then all hell breaks loose. And you say, why would you continue to subject yourself to betting unders? Because they just go up in flames at any moment. So we'll see what happens. There's a second game.
One more important point on that. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but one more. I'm glad Vitalis brought this up because I've harped on this for a long time. This is basically a primetime game for Andy Dalton. What do we talk about Andy Dalton doing in primetime games when the pressure is on? He collapses. So that's another reason to like Washington. I'm glad it reminded me. Andy Dalton is absolute trash when the lights are on and it's a highly televised game. He's absolute garbage. So just another reason to like Washington in this game.
Night game, 125, 126, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. About 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Pittsburgh Steelers. No shame in that, I guess you could say, if you check out SBRodds.com. Line opened up at 3.5. Now we're seeing that shift north. Pinnacle offshore, -4. Chris at -5. DraftKings in New Jersey, 4.5. So you're probably looking between the low end of it at Pinnacle at 4 and then the high end of it around that 5 range. You even saw it as high, blink for a few moments at 5.5. And what we're worrying is the fallout here of what we see with the Baltimore Ravens of how many people more test positive for COVID. Now, if you take that out of the equation, because it's a pretty big detail, but when you're looking at the guys that are missing, I think their best running back is J.K. Dobbins. He's not going to play this weekend. Ingram, who is a great running back, but obviously something is just not there, injured this year. I don't see that as that big of a loss. You're going to be on the Gus bus here carrying the football, which he's a capable running back, but this offense is only going to go as far as Lamar Jackson takes him in the air to make simple reads. Now, the last time that we saw these teams play, the Baltimore Ravens dominated that football game, like close to 450 yards on offense against what I think is probably the best defense in the Steelers. Now, also, you're taking a look at guys that won't be there on the defensive end. Key nose tackle, Calais Campbell's not going to be there, who played in that last football game. But here's the interesting part, because the same way we looked at that game on Sunday when the Titans came to town saying, boy, if you're going to be down your nose tackle Williams, then you're going to be down Calais Campbell, you're going to be able to run the ball. King Henry didn't do much in the first half, but really turned on the gas in the second half because they wore them down up front. Here's my issue with the Steelers. They're all about the pass, and that's fine. Big Ben's having a great year. You got legitimate wide receivers across the board. We'll see if Juju Smith-Schuster is able to make it to the starting line in this game. But my issue here is the way I think you can out-physical the Ravens, which you never can do before, the Steelers have zero running game. So it's going to be all passes again. And do you have to rely on Lamar Jackson just turning the football over like he did in the Steelers game to stay in it? Because if Lamar Jackson doesn't fumble inside the 5 or at least throw the one interception, take one back, the Steelers get blasted in that game. Baltimore crushed the Steelers, but it's a good sign of a good football team moving on. So my question here in this game is, even with people get scared of the COVID, but the guys that are impacted by the COVID don't really factor in all that much in the game plan to me, considering it's just running backs here.
Yeah, except for Brandon Williams, he was out last week, and that makes things – you're absolutely right. Like, the weakness of Baltimore is they can't stop the run without Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams. How afraid of the Pittsburgh running game are you really, James Conner, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland? Not all that much, but it should be competent enough where they're able to move the ball. You are absolutely right. That first game, I think it was like 457 to 230 something in total yards.
Complete domination.
Yeah, they did not look good. But then you get, and that was Pittsburgh on the road in Baltimore. So that's kind of interesting. When you look at Big Ben throughout his career, he's 81-28 in home games in his Pittsburgh career, 9-5 on Thursdays. I just think with all Baltimore has seen, that game really seemed to kind of knock them off the rails. They weren't looking great anyways. You can see their confidence is lower and lower. And now when you're without your top two running backs, Gus Edwards is decent, and he's actually played pretty decent in the last two games against Pittsburgh. Just in terms of fantasy points, 15 and 16. He's able to run the ball up the middle. I just don't know if Baltimore has enough. I do think that defense is able to stop him. I like Pittsburgh right now. I got him at 4.5 yesterday. I went ahead and put that bet in at 4.5 yesterday. I know it's the square play, especially with everything going wrong, and there's certainly that trap perspective. But even with limited fans, Pittsburgh and Big Ben are very, very good at home. I expect them to be just competent enough against a Baltimore team that cannot stop the run without their two best nose tackles. And I just don't see how Lamar Jackson carries them to victory. It's going to be too easy for this team to defend Baltimore on the offensive side of the ball. That's been the case during this little skid of theirs. So right now I'm taking Pittsburgh, but it does have the feeling of a trap game. What I really do like is I'm seeing a lot of 44.5s, 45s. I think this game definitely goes over that. I think both teams get into the 20s, but I like Pittsburgh just a little bit more in this game. I think they're the more well-rounded team. They're at home, less hurt, less COVID problems, more practice time. Give me Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's all interesting, too. I think you brought up the point that, you think both teams get in the 20s. There is an extremely cheap team total for the Ravens that I'm looking at. And again, how could you take the Ravens going up against the Steelers' number one defense? Look at the Steelers. They went out, busted up these last two teams that they played. But also keep in mind, you're looking at a team that it almost doesn't matter what happens. Unless you get a monsoon up in New England, they scored 20-plus points every single week regardless. So if I'm looking at a total in this game, 44.5 at Bet365, do you see a low-scoring game, honestly, though? Like, how do you I know Pittsburgh has a really good defense, but even when you take a look at that first game, they still busted into the 50s there, even though one side only had, as you said, 250 yards in that game. Like, I look at it as an over game.
Yeah, me too. It's just anytime now, it's weird. If this was 10 years ago, you see a 44.5, you're nervous as hell. Like, oh, God, I don't know. Now, when you see a number like that, you're like, oh, thank God, I might be finally getting some value with two. Even though Baltimore's offense, of course, without the running backs, and they haven't looked great, these are still two competent offenses with upside. So it feels a little low to me. I think 44.5. I think they go over that. And I will be surprised if this is one of those old school 9-6 Ravens Steelers games. I don't think you're going to see that. Big Ben moves the ball much better at home. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, they know this is a must win. So this is going to be a competitive game. I think it comes down to the end, but I do think the Steelers cover here. Late touchdown, maybe a mistake by Lamar Jackson. Keep an eye on the ball control here for Baltimore. But I think the over is right. And even though I'm nervous about it, I do think there's some trap potential here. I am going to take Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because when you look at both sides, I mean, Pittsburgh can't run the football, so then what do? They pass. So you either get big plays, incomplete passes, the clock stops. The same thing with Baltimore. If you're not going to have your whole plethora of running backs, maybe you don't run it as much as you usually do, which means what? More passes in the air, more big plays, more penalties, more, incomplete passes, stop the clock. We'll see what happens. But that's a Thursday night Turkey Day showdown with those 3 football games. So hopefully you guys can bet on that, win some money. 12:30, 4:30 to 8:20. Let's flip it over to Sunday and get after it here. Las Vegas Raiders coming east to face the Atlanta Falcons. 7 out of every 10 tickets here at SBRodds.com coming in on the Raiders. No surprise there. They open up at 2.5, quickly move to 3 across the board. And my tag phrase, which I need to get a shirt, is, guess what I saw today come out on Twitter? Julio Jones, game time decision with a hamstring. Now, everybody out here, when we hear hamstring and skilled position player, you take 2 weeks off of it. So as soon as you see the tweet saying he's going to get checked out for a hamstring, timestamp that 2 weeks, and then you will see that player at least 2 to 3 weeks later. And my quick case in point is, if he has a hamstring injury, Julio Jones, right? If he says, I'm not going to practice, I'm going to give it a go. We know what that means, Kyle, right? 3 plays and Julio limping off to the side like he's Jason Peters reincarnated out there. That's what I see coming from this game. But do you go against the Raiders in this game? So, they're going east, sterile environment. This is a shot where they might not play well. Matt Ryan looked atrocious last week. But then again, the New Orleans Saints had a lot to do with that. Yeah. But if you're asking me, like, hey, let me just be contrarian and take Atlanta, that's all I have. Take Julio out of that offense and go up against the Raiders, who can run, pass, and seemingly are ready to make a playoff push. I'm out on Atlanta. I'm out.
Yeah, I made a big mistake last week expecting Atlanta to cover and maybe win that game, and they were absolutely dreadful. And I don't know where our boy Abel is, but I'll tell you what, I have been nothing but wrong. I mean, I've picked the Raiders at the beginning of the year. I was absolutely wrong about this Raiders team. John Gruden hasn't playing hard. The defense, of course, isn't very good. The defense for Atlanta is obviously not very good. But there's absolutely no way, unless Atlanta was like 17,000-point underdogs, that I'm betting on Atlanta. They are absolutely dreadful. Even if they get a lead, they can't hold a lead. I think the Raiders are playing hard. They look like a playoff team this year. I think this one's pretty easy. I don't want to jinx it too much, but I like the Raiders here, and I would take them all the way up to 6.5 or 7 because I think the Raiders actually win this game fairly easily.
I see the over-under in that game set at 55.5, and that screams like it's just too high for me because when you actually watch the Atlanta Falcons, sometimes you take like what they used to be into account. Matt Ryan no longer has an arm. Matt Ryan no longer has legs. Matt Ryan's going to be making business decisions because if you take Julio Jones away, it's even more checkdowns. He almost looks similar to me now, like Alex Smith. It used to be that big-time offense, throw those blimps downfield 50 to 60 yards to Julio. They don't do that anymore. More dink and dunk, and you talk about Gurley as your running back. He's the least explosive. Like him and James Conner out here should have a turtle race to see who crosses that third. You know what I mean? It's just a slow-moving offense. That over-under looks way too high for me. I'll sit on the under. 253, 254, Arizona and New England. Word comes out today, Kyler Murray working off to the side at practice because we know he hurt his throwing shoulder versus the Seattle Seahawks. Something to keep in mind. Line opens up at 3, Kyle. Now we're sitting 2.5s and 2s across the board. Over-under jumping up, though, 48 to 50. And that's usually just an occurrence there with Arizona. Not a great defensive team. We know they're going to play fast. So therefore, Cam Newton in that offense, who showed up, at least on offense, versus Houston, should be able to do the same against Arizona. I would like to take Arizona here, but it's tough when you get a quarterback with a throwing arm injury. And also, more importantly, when you have a shoulder injury as a quarterback, maybe you don't keep it as much as you usually do on those read option runs, those zone reads where Kyler Murray can run for 100 yards. If he's not his active self and instead of getting 60 yards, he's getting 30, that might affect it. I'm actually looking towards New England, even though they're a dead football team. I just need more information here on Arizona before I bet them.
Exactly. Right now, this is a 100% stay away game. You've got Arizona, who's clearly, when healthy, the better football team. New England is slow. They look pretty incompetent on offense. I know they were able to put up some points against Houston. Now, Arizona's defense is nothing to write home about. It's a bad defense out there. Uh, but Kyler Murray, I think he'll be okay. But you're right. You kind of want to see how this goes on throughout the week. I don't want to spend too much time on you got the West Coast team going east. It's in Foxborough. All of those things.
Yeah.
We're super down on New England after what we saw this week. And, even though we're not super high on Arizona after losing to Seattle, they are getting those extra days after Thursday night football. I know Kyler Murray hurt his AC joint. It's certainly nerve-wracking. Right now, I mean, if I had to pick a side early, I'd say Arizona, but I would probably stay away right now and wait for some more information to come in.
Yeah, another interesting game, 255, 256. And again, another team in the NFC East that's going to get a definitive, simple win. What we should think here, Cincinnati, a little bit tougher to think about on the road when you have Joe Burrow at quarterback, not going to be there. Ryan Finley. Now, also, there's a lot of caution in this too, because when you take a look at a quarterback coming in, it's completely different. If you don't really know how the NFL works, unless you're the starter, you get no snaps at practice. You don't even look at the playbook. You're like running scout team and trying to keep up in meetings. So when you take a look at this game overall, Finley gets that full week of practice. Is that going to help? I'm not so sure. But now instead of the Giants playing that underdog role, Kyle, they're favored by 5.5. So expected to win by a touchdown on the road. I think this game might be close. I still think the Giants get it done and cover because I don't know if I'm going to get actually out of Finley. But maybe Mixon comes back this week. We'll see. A lot up in the air. But that 42 is a really low number, even with Finley at quarterback. I lean towards the over here early in the week.
Yeah, basically for me, unless it's bad weather, I'm going to take the overs on those low 40s. And I do like the Giants' defense has actually been sneaky good. They've been playing better. That secondary is pretty competent. So I know we are running out of time. It's going to be lightning round for us from here on out. Let's rock and roll. But right now I got to take the Giants, and I'll take the over. Ryan Finley's not terrible, but he's no Joe Burrow. That's a bad Bengals defense. I got to lean the Giants, and I like the over.
257, 258, Cleveland and Jacksonville. Cleveland looks like they're a competent football team on their way to a possible playoff berth. If we take a look, though, and here's the interest in this game. Jacksonville still has listed Luton as the quarterback, but on the opposite side, Gardner Minshew was really cleared last week to start throwing. They say his thumb is fine, but head coach Doug Marrone wants to see him throwing at practice this week before he makes a decision. The way Luton has played, Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback this week. Do they get Laviska Shenault back, who, again, 2 weeks ago, hamstring, hey, guys, I'm fine. I should be ready to go this week. 2 games later, he's still not ready to go. Maybe he gets back in the lineup this week. But here's my question to you. Cleveland now is going to play in a decent environment. Last 3 games, rain in a monsoon versus the Eagles, and the 2 games previous to that, hurricane winds and rain in some of those football games. Now you get a clear field. They should be able to score, which is why you see 46.5 now showing up at 49s. But keep an eye on Jacksonville's offense in this one. Although they haven't played that well with the young quarterback, they get Minshew back. Denzel Ward is out this week. Also, Myles Garrett's still not going to play with COVID issues. And also Harrison, one of the better safeties in the NFL this year, banged up with a bone bruises in his knee, might be down 3 key components. So maybe Jacksonville has a chance here to pull off a shocker here, getting the 6.5.
Oh, God. I distrust these teams so much. Like I don't think there's much difference between Baker Mayfield and Jake Luton. I really don't. I think Baker Mayfield's an absolute trash can of a quarterback, an absolute bust of a number 1 overall pick. I really do. I think he's so incompetent. I kind of feel that way. He shows less effort than Carson Wentz. He's probably a little more talented. Carson Wentz makes bad decisions, but man, I don't trust either of these football teams. Tons of injuries on the defensive side for Jacksonville as well. DJ Hayden, Chris Claybrooks, their best 2 corners, if you can even say that. It's a bad defense. I like the running backs in this game. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, James Robinson should all have good games. I just don't know how competent these offenses are. And again, it looks like there's going to be some rain in Jacksonville, and we've seen what Baker Mayfield looks like in the rain. I do not trust either one of these teams. I guess I'll trend very, very uneasily to Cleveland. But this is a stay away game for me. Just sit back and hope it's not showing up on your red zone. That's fine.
Yeah, I think we get points in this one. I think you're going to be in red zone a lot there because again, like I think Cleveland's defense is getting a real big high. Like, hey, look at how good they are. Well, anybody can be good if you're playing in a monsoon every single week with wind. So maybe if that rain holds off or isn't too bad, I think both of these teams will be able to move it. Carolina, it looks like we possibly get Teddy Bridgewater back. Don't know, and it looks like we probably won't get Run CMC back in the backfield. But Minnesota licking their wounds, thinking they had a chance at an outside playoff berth, quickly disappearing with a loss to the Dallas Cowboys at home. Favored by 4. I don't trust Minnesota in this game, but we need more information on Teddy Bridgewater if he comes back. Because if Bridgewater is competent in this football game, I'm not laying 4 with Minnesota. Ain't no way.
No way. I think Carolina's a better team outright. I like the way they play defense. We've seen them play really close with Kansas City. We've seen some stinkers out of them. Even PJ Walker was very competent last week. I like Carolina. I think Carolina wins this game outright, especially if Bridgewater's there. There's absolutely zero chance I'm laying points with the Minnesota Vikings. That is absolutely not going to happen. Now, the one thing I will say, Carolina struggles against the run. Obviously, right now, the most explosive running back in the league is Dalvin Cook, and it's not even close. Every time he touches the ball, you think he's going to go the distance. He's been absolutely phenomenal. But I still think Carolina wins. They have a great trio of receivers, an awful, awful secondary and defense in Minnesota. Give me the Carolina Panthers.
Keep it moving here down the list as we go. Tennessee, Indianapolis, really good football game. 1 p.m. on Sunday, 261, 262. How about this? 7 out of every 10 tickets here are coming in on Tennessee, even though our eyes told us something different 2 weeks ago when Indy laid the boom on Tennessee on the road. Now they come back home. Line opens up at 3.5. We saw it get as high as 4. Now it's back to 3.5. Over/under opens up 49.5. Now we're seeing 51s across the board. I do think we get points in this game. I think Indianapolis should be good for 27, 28 points again against that porous Tennessee defense. But I can't keep on knocking down Tennessee. They're going to put a competent effort moving forward. They have a lot of key components. If they get Humphreys back possibly there in the slot to add to that repertoire of offensive weapons that they have with Ryan Tannehill, play action should work. And again, we're not worried about weather. I like that over 50 to 51 in this football game. I think you get sort of like a repeat. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but a repeat of points scored that we just saw on that Thursday night football game. And if I had to lean towards the side, I'm not going against Phillip Rivers and at home in the Dome. Seems to play well there. They put up points. I think they'll do it again.
Yeah, and I guess one thing to keep an eye on is this toe issue for Phillip Rivers. It's not like he's overly mobile anyway, so I'm not sure how much of an impact that is.
How the hell do you get hurt?
That's what I'm like. He doesn't move. He just snaps it and does that sidearm chuck. But, Tennessee, the worst pass rush in the NFL. Bottom line, what is Phillip Rivers like? A clean pocket, good weather, bad defense. I like the Colts here. I always get nervous with the Colts and the over, and that sort of burned me last week. I guess burned both of us against the Packers. But I like the Colts. I haven't seen anything. I was impressed with Tennessee last week. I'm happy they won, but I haven't seen anything that suggests to me that defense can stop a competent offense. And that Colts defense, I know they gave up some points early to Green Bay, but when they decided to clamp down, they clamped down. It's a good defense. I think the Colts are the better all-around team. I'm going to take the Colts again at home. I don't mind the 3.5.
Good matchup here in Buffalo, 263, 264. Rested and ready Buffalo. Josh Norman activated off the COVID list. It's at least a depth guy, more of a name at this point, but still a big indicator. Justin Herbert's been an absolutely phenomenal quarterback through 9 weeks of his young NFL career, and he'll get another start here versus Buffalo. Not the same Buffalo defense we're always used to. Maybe you get Austin Eckler back this week, who is now back to practicing after having that hamstring injury, which was at least a month and a half ago. That could be an added boost, but that passing game is going to work. And also in the opposite side, for some reason, you still have some really good talent on that Chargers defense, but they certainly can't get it together, and giving up close to 30 points, or even I forget what the final score was, but close to 30 at least, to the New York Jets. That doesn't bode well heading into Buffalo. Decent weather anticipated. 5.5 seems about right here. I do think Buffalo wins. But I don't know why I'm not trusting this 5.5, because maybe it's John Brown's banged up and not playing. And we've seen that offense, Kyle, without that other guy on the opposite side of Stephon Diggs. That deep threat sort of breaks down that offense a little bit. Has me leaning towards the Chargers early in the week, but I do like Buffalo. Keep an eye on that injury report, because if Brown plays at wide receiver on the opposite end, they're a devastating offense. When he doesn't, you can lock in on one side of the field. And we'll also see if Chris Harris Jr. comes back as well for the Chargers here.
Well, that would be really big. The Chris Harris coming back into that secondary would be huge, and that's something to keep an eye on. I actually right now like the over in this game. the Buffalo secondary outside of Tre'Davious White is bad, and he's not a guy who goes into the slot. So he's probably going to shadow out there on Mike Williams instead of Keenan Allen, who likes to play in the slot, opening things up there. But look, Anthony Lynn, former Buffalo Bill, if you remember way back then, he was like a third string running back for the Buffalo Bills years and years ago, back when I was like 15 and Donnie was, 45 or so.
Pants, yep.
But he had the mullet going and the stonewashed jeans and all that stuff. But I still lean Buffalo. The Chargers just listen. They can't put anybody away. They can't figure out a way to win a football game. The defense hasn't been great. I love Justin Herbert. Fantastic young quarterback. But when you look at the Chargers, the strength of the defense right now is that pass rush. Josh Allen is happy to deal with the pass rush and get out of the pocket and use his legs. So right now I'm going to lean Buffalo. I just don't trust the Chargers. And I actually kind of like the over in this game as long as the weather holds up. That over 53.5 makes a lot of sense to me.
265, 266, last 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Miami and the New York Jets coming up to the Meadowlands here. Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the starting quarterback for the Dolphins. And I got to say, before that announcement was made by head coach Brian Flores, I was really hoping it was going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would have been all over Miami to blow the Jets' doors off, possibly put up 30-plus points and hold down that Jets offense. Now, some key indicators here. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Joe Flacco's played well the past 2 weeks here, putting up some points. But we remember his last outing against Miami was one of the more horrendous performances that you're going to see from a professional quarterback. If Sam Darnold gets in there, that gives him a little bit of a boost. And with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, you have to see what he has. But I'm not rushing to lay 7 points with Tua and their offense being a train wreck under him like it is. You can't. And you saw last week when it finally runs out, right? The block punts for touchdowns, the pick sixes, the fumbles recovered on the 1 yard line. You peel back those layers. They were pathetic against the Denver Broncos. I'm not ready to lay 7, which is what that number is coming out earlier. I'll take the Jets early in the week here with the 7 points as long as Tua is going to start that football game.
Yeah, I agree. You took the words right out of my mouth. If it was Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm taking Miami all day because now you have a dynamic passing attack that can take advantage of those mismatches outside. That Jets secondary is dreadful. Can Tua do that? We've saw some flashes, but quite frankly, you just can't trust it right now. For me, this is a stay-away game across the board. I just don't know what I'm going to see out of Tua. Should he be extra motivated? Absolutely. Do I think he'll have a good week of practice? Sure. I'm sure you'll hear a ton about that. But without Fitz being there, laying a touchdown, even though I think Miami's the better football team and probably wins this game, maybe I'll make them like a money line parlay piece or something like that. But right now, you just can't do it. So I think I would take the Jets to cover, as crazy as that sounds. A little revenge game here for Adam Gase. But overall, in terms of actually spending any of my money on it, it's a stay-away game. But I think I'm with you. I'd lean the Jets.
267, 268, New Orleans and Denver. Taysom Hill going to get his second start. Looked pretty good in his first start going up against that Atlanta defense in the Dome. Was able to move the football, turned it over late, which I really had a problem with because I needed a field goal to cash in on a team total, but that's for another day at this point. But New Orleans defense, to me, is the story here. Denver's defense, they're not that. They're actually a really good defense when they are healthy, and they're going to be able to give Taysom Hill some problems here on the road. But my issue is not so much about what I'm getting at Taysom Hill and the offense versus the Broncos defense. It's Drew Lock, a very athletic quarterback with a big arm that sometimes says, I can make every single throw and get him into trouble. Now, you're going against New Orleans, whose front four is going to be bringing that heat all game long against a kid that makes bad decisions. I like Jerry Jeudy at wideout. I like Patrick at wideout. I like, Deshaun Hamiltons of the world and a couple of the younger guys, the KJ Hamlers. They have two really good running backs in the Denver Broncos. They're a little bit short on the offensive line, and that defense is legitimate for New Orleans, and they are going to be breathing down Drew Lock's throat that entire game. I see a lower scoring game, but I do think New Orleans can win this game by a touchdown for the simple fact Drew Lock is going to throw 2 interceptions and probably fumble another one. I can't have that out of my quarterback. I think I'll get a competent performance out of New Orleans. Give me New Orleans in a low-scoring game to win by a touchdown here.
Yeah, I just think New Orleans' defense is too much, and we were encouraged out of what we saw at Taysom Hill. And is the Denver defense better now with Bryce Callahan back? I mean, we saw it. He was a big difference maker in that game, made that big interception in the end zone. Too much for the Saints. I don't think Denver's very good at stopping the run. Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray should be good. Taysom Hill looked competent enough, and you're right, that defense way too much for Drew Lock. I think it's going to be a scary, slow start. It's going to be tough for Denver to put up points. I hate that total of 43.5. That's just scary because it seems like you should easily go over. But if we get a 3-point, half or 2.5 quarters out of Drew Lock, how much will New Orleans actually put up on the board? They only put up 24 against Atlanta, who's a really, really bad defense. I like the Saints in this one, just too much defense. I think they win this just defense alone. As long as Taysom Hill is sort of competent, I think they get it done. Denver's going to have a hard time against that defense this week.
Yeah, you got some good film out on Taysom Hill. So if you're Denver and Vic Fangio, you have a couple angles you could play in this one. But I think I'm going to get a competent offense. And again, it's not the heck can Taysom Hill do something. They're so talented at every single position. Offensive line, tailback. You got a good tight end, great wide receivers. It's just a lot to lean on now that you add that component of a running quarterback. And again, it's not about that offense for me. It's really about the defense. Let's keep moving here. 269, 270, San Francisco and the Los Angeles Rams just saw a dominant performance last night, or at least a performance I really liked out of the Rams, going on the road and picking up a victory against a pretty good NFC football team. So that's going to bode well for them come playoff time. Now they come home in the Dome versus a rested San Francisco football team. We'll see who gets to the starting line, but it looks like you're going to get some pretty good players back here. That running game that hits home runs, both of those home run hitters should be back. Deebo Samuel back to the practice field. So if you get Deebo on one side, Ayuk on the other side, and a healthy Jordan Reed coming off a bye, it's still a semblance of a decent offense, but that Rams defense is really good. The question we have here is, you have the ultimate performance because these two coaches know each other. One had an extra week to prepare. The other one had a Super Bowl type game last night on Monday Night Football across on the East Coast. Now you got to fly back and get up for your division rival. Is that too much? Because that 7 mark is what's sitting out here, and that's a differentiating line for me. 7.5, I might be interested in taking the 49ers. 6.5, I might be interested in taking the Rams. 49ers going to give them all they can handle in this game. I do believe that.
Oh, they always do. And McVay and Shanahan are very good friends. But when you just look at what these two teams do against each other, Kyle Shanahan knows how to scheme, and Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, know how to scheme against Sean McVay and this team. Raheem Mostert possibly back. I think he actually will be back. I think he's off the injury report. Tevin Coleman, Deebo Samuel, you mentioned it. The 49ers defense, even though they're banged up, they have been playing better. Do I think the 49ers win this game? Probably not. But do I think it's much, much closer than a touchdown? Absolutely. So I'm taking my boys. I'm taking my 49ers to cover this week. Kyle Shanahan knows how to coach against this Rams team. Rams coming off a short week, an emotional win, a big win against Tampa Bay. I think the 49ers give them a tough matchup this week and cover. And I might even, just because I'm a disgusting degenerate, I might throw a little money line bet on my 49ers just and use my heart. I mean, it's Thanksgiving week, maybe I'll be good to myself and have a little fun on that game. But the 49ers know how to scheme. I know there's no Garoppolo, but they know how to scheme against Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan's had his number. I like my 49ers this week.
Yeah, just got beat in their last game versus the New Orleans Saints. They had a lot of chances in that football game, including being up 10-0 early in that game to mess around with the Saints. So we'll see if that extra week and getting those guys back, because they didn't have a lot of those guys in the past week. Trent Williams looks like he's going to miss this game because he's had COVID for apparently the last 6 out of 8 weeks. So we'll see if he gets back or if he's going to sit out. 271, 272, Kansas City, Tampa Bay. One of the great games here. It's 425, national spotlight, Tom Brady again, Patrick Mahomes. And it's funny because you take a look at Tampa Bay. If you don't get a good pass rush, Tampa Bay can operate. I'm really worried about Tampa Bay, and it's one of those things where when they added Antonio Brown, it sounds so good, right? Like, oh, my God, you're just going to add a guy who's going to be able to get open along with the other 2 wide receivers. But it looks like he's the focal point of their passing game when he shouldn't be, because if you ask me right now in their careers, Godwin is better. And Mike Evans is better than Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown almost doubles him, it seems like, in actual pass attempts out to him. I don't understand what they're doing. They get away from the running game. They get shellacked. They have to center themselves again and lean on Ronald Jones II and work off of that. They didn't do it last night. They got beat. Brady had 2 terrible interceptions. I see the line at 3.5 at some outlets, 56. I think it's about right because, quite honestly, I'm not about to take Kansas City in a game where the other team, all intents and purposes, has to win the cover. I like Tampa Bay. I don't know if they can do that against Kansas City.
Yeah. Now, look, we got burned by it last week. We took the Chiefs 7.5, and the Raiders played them tough, and it was, it was a nice little comeback in that 2-minute drill. And the Chiefs' defense stinks. So this is going to be an easier game for the Tampa Bay offense because the Chiefs' defense does stink. There's no doubt about it, and they're very vulnerable against the run. We saw them. They're vulnerable against good quarterback play. But do you really think the Chiefs are going to lose this game? Like, we should know better than to think the Chiefs are going to lose a football game. I mean, their only loss was that weird fluky game to the Raiders, and the Raiders seem to have sort of their number. But if I'm getting threes, 3.5s, I'm taking Kansas City to win. We talk about it all the time. You take that scenario. Okay, Tampa Bay, they're up by 3. It's 27-24. There's a minute and a half on the clock. Patrick Mahomes has the ball. Guess what? They're going to win the game by 4 o'clock. Turn your television off like you always say. They're going down the field.
Yep.
They are going to score a touchdown. Harrison Butker's a good kicker. He'll make the extra point. Boom, it's 4. They've covered the 3.5. I like the Chiefs. Until I see otherwise from Tampa Bay, when they struggle, it's against good football teams. Tampa Bay just seems to struggle against the good teams. Now, it's not a great defense in Kansas City, but I think the offense is good enough. If Jared Goff is going to look like a Pro Bowler, imagine what Patrick Mahomes is going to look like. Big game for Tampa Bay. I'm sure they'll be highly motivated, but I just like Mahomes and company too much. Give me the Chiefs.
Getting a game here, Chicago and Green Bay. Looking on some odds boards here, a lot of them don't have it up. So I'm going to see if I have any. It looks like I do have here. Do you have it? What odds do you have up right now on them?
I see some 7.5s and 8.5. I see a 9 over at WagerWeb and a 9 at Heritage as well. So it's anywhere from 7.5 to 9 is what I'm looking at for Green Bay.
Yeah, it's a really high number. You're going to get a freezing cold game here in this too. 30 degrees at kickoff, 16, 17 mile an hour winds. So typical Green Bay weather here that we're going to take a look at in late, and again, really late November on the 29th, which is when this game will be played, Sunday Night Football. Here's what I'm waiting for here, right? So I look at this game. Both the quarterbacks are banged up a little bit. But I have to tell you, if Mitchell Trubisky plays in this game, as long as it's under 10, I run and just slam it on Green Bay. I just keep on banging Green Bay right up until that line goes to 10 points. Because the one thing that you get with Nick Foles, and he hasn't been I don't know how he can be that good with an average offensive line, 0 running game where a wide receiver is your tailback and having one legitimate wide receiver. But the one thing I know about Nick Foles is at least he thinks the game of football. Mitchell Trubisky is so horrendous that the only redeeming quality he has is if he runs and gets injured so he can't play anymore. So that's where I'm at in this game. It's Green Bay or nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean, the real weakness for Green Bay is they can't stop the run, right? Well, when you're Chicago and you don't have a competent running back on your roster, it's really hard to take advantage of that. And you mentioned the cold weather. Lean the under in this game, the under 45. And again, we just got to see who's going to play quarterback for Chicago. I mean, we could be looking at Tyler bleeping Bray at quarterback if both Foles and Trubisky
might be better. That might be the
which
best
might
option
be better. Exactly. It's absolutely insane. So I kind of lean the under on this one, but you're right. It's Green Bay or nothing. It's really another stay away game. This is going to be like, okay, we're just watching an old rivalry Sunday night. Maybe you take a little nap.
On a midway.
Yeah, you take a little nap during the game and sort of wake up in the middle. Or if you're on the East Coast, you just go to bed early and see what happens in the morning. But I'll take the under in this game, and definitely not betting on the Bears. And Bears have been good to us as underdogs. To cover. Let's not make any mistake about it. But depending on who's at quarterback, do you really want to bet Mitchell Trubisky? Of course not. You feel better if it's Nick Foles, even though he stinks. Tyler Bray, good Lord, what are we getting? Oh, yeah, Green Bay or nothing. I like the under more than anything else on this game.
Yeah, I do too. Because when you take a look, because obviously the Bears have a really good defense, but so does Indianapolis. And the one thing that you watched last time, now maybe they're not strong enough, the Green Bay Packers, to win, but they put up a lot of points. But Indy has a good enough offense to counter that. Can Chicago counter with 27 points to beat the Packers? No way in hell. No way in hell. So that's the way I look at that game. Monday Night Football, as we wrap up this show here on Tuesday, 275, 276, Seattle and Philadelphia, 8 to 9 tickets out of every 10 are coming in Seattle. People can't wait to get down, but yet I see Pinnacle, Kyle, open up at 5.5 and now sits at 5. And some outlets 5.5, some 5s out here. Over under opens up at 53, dips to 51. Some rain in the forecast, but it looks like 60 degrees on the last day or November 30th here in Philadelphia, which is a nice weather game. Again, Seattle's going to be coming West Coast to East Coast. No fans are going to be involved. Both offenses should be able to operate. And as long as we don't get a lot of wet weather, I think we get some points in this football game because everybody scores in Seattle. And then when you flip it over, Russ scores just about on everybody. It doesn't matter who your defense is. I lean the over 51 at this point, but I can't yet jump into bed with the Eagles, even though they're probably going to play Seattle tough. But at the end of the day, do I want to go against Russell Wilson versus the Eagles? Nope, I don't.
No, especially with the Eagles. I'm done with the Eagles. Absolutely done. It does make me nervous that, that Pinnacle dropped that a half point. That always makes me nervous because that's
Crazy.
one of the sharper books. When you watch that, it's like, okay, what the hell's going on? But no, Carson Wentz versus Russell Wilson. No, that's like me versus my baby brother. That's a win every time. I don't trust Carson Wentz. Now listen, the Seattle secondary, historically bad, one of the worst of all time. But how many times have we said this? Like, okay, this Eagles offense should look good against this defense, and they look like absolute garbage. So until I see otherwise, I cannot trust the Eagles. I got to take the Seahawks by if it's under a touchdown here. And you're right, there should be points because the Seattle defense cannot stop anybody. I mean, we're going to have to sharpen our pencils. We'll obviously be live for this entire game, and Donnie will be in his Ben DiNucci jersey, supporting his Eagles.
Party.
But I got to take the Seahawks right now, and I would sort of lean the over.
Yep, and I'm going to take a lot of pain on my team totals this week. Already signed up for a little bit so far, so hopefully we'll be able to find some more. But I got to tell you, still looking at those Philadelphia Eagles team total here if we get that right number. Well, thank you guys for joining us here on Tuesday to talk a little Week 12 NFL action. As we said earlier in the show, we will not be on Thursday at 4 p.m. We're shifting that show over to Friday at 4 p.m. Black Friday, a true football Friday, so we can get those extra practice reports in and get you guys ready for Sunday. Talk about how our Thanksgiving days were. Thanks again to you guys for tuning in here. 150 people watching here live. I know a lot of you people watch it afterwards, and also thank you for the retweets and the kind words here in the chat box today. But we are out of here, and as I said again, we will be back on Friday. So thanks for tuning in today. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are SportsBookReview.com, and this was your Tuesday NFL show for Week 12.